Welcome to ThinkTech on OC16, Hawaii's weekly newscast on things that matter to tech and to Hawaii. I'm your host, Duke Oishi.
And I'm your co-host, Maria Kashem.
In our show this time, we'll cover the Build and Buy Green conference that took place at the Hawaii Convention Center.
It was presented by DBED, the State Department of Business, Economic Development, and Tourism.
The keynote was Jerry Udelson. He has spoken at more than 50 green building and development conferences and is popular among architects, engineers, builders, developers, and planners around the country.
I'd like you to think for a second about a tsunami, not in a sort of horrific way. We really talk about megatrends. We're really talking about these sort of big tsunamis that are out there, maybe slightly over the horizon, but when they come here, they're going to have a big effect. So that's kind of what I mean by megatrends. And my host asked me to talk briefly about water as well. So you'll see on your table some water handouts, and I'll kind of go, when I go to that part of the talk, I'll tell you what's there. But let's think for a moment about sort of where we are in the green building world. And in case anyone has to leave early, I heard somebody say they had a conference call right at 9 o'clock. So in case you have to leave early, sort of the takeaways from this morning's talk are, first of all, there's a lot of drivers of these megatrends. It's not just one thing pushing it like the economy or politics or whatever. There's a lot of drivers. Secondly, we're in an era where performance counts. And so we've gone through the whole green building movement. I've been involved for the last 15 years, starting out in the Pacific Northwest. We've gone through the period where everything was new and everybody was learning how to do things. But now we're in the period where you're going to be measured by performance and not intention. And the third is that there's a lot of things you can do locally, and I'll talk about those to change the dynamics here in Hawaii. So what are these megatrends? You know, these are things that are big, humongous trends, or we could call them big, scary, audacious trends. But these are things that are going to change our future. And so I wanted to outline what I think are 10 of these that particularly affect the building sector. You can read them. I think that's quite readable. But basically, we're going to talk about the rebound in the commercial sector. We're going to talk about the NGO and government side. We're going to talk about existing buildings, using the cloud for building management, performance disclosures, water as a green building issue, solar power, obviously a big deal here in Hawaii, zero net energy buildings, local initiatives, and what's happening globally. So those are sort of the big trends that are out there. And I will tell you that I'm a professional engineer by training and registration, and you could see these things happening in the building sector, certainly in leading edge places like the West Coast, California, Oregon, Washington, and the Northeast, and then the sort of big cities in between, Chicago, Atlanta, Denver, Dallas, those kind of places. You could see these things happening quite well already. So let's talk first of all about the commercial sector. If you look at what's been happening in the commercial sector, obviously during the global financial crisis, the commercial sector took a big hit. And you could see this in the LEED registrations, in the green building registrations. You could see all of a sudden that the new registrations for new commercial buildings were way, way down starting in about 2010, 2011. But it's come back very solid. And so I think the good news is not only is the office sector coming back solid and healthy, but green building in new commercial construction is already 20 to 30% of the US market. And that's really a big deal. That means it's gone mainstream.
Then we spent some time in one of the breakout rooms of the conference. This featured a discussion on green transportation with a panel composed of Asia Yeri of the Environmental Protection Agency, Bob Hines of the State Energy Office, and Dan Grabowskis of HART, the Honolulu Authority on Rapid Transportation. It was a powerful discussion.
Our first speaker today is Asia Yeri. And Asia, I've known for quite a while, works for the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, Region 9, as the Hawaii Sustainability Coordinator and Grants Project Manager. Asia is also, from personal experience, a really energetic, very positive individual.
I'm based here in Honolulu, but our regional office is in San Francisco, and we cover California, Nevada, Arizona, Hawaii, and the Pacific Islands. Today, I'm going to talk about transportation choices, and I'm going to cover federal grants and regulations that are driving vehicle efficiency. I'm going to talk a little bit about the HUD DOT EPA Sustainable Communities Partnership and livability principles. Wrong spelling. Encourage more transportation choices, and then transportation accounts for at least 50% of Hawaii's energy consumption. Not everybody knows that or realizes that. And then multimodal transportation builds healthy communities, saves energy, and reduces our dependence on imported fossil fuels. And lastly, I'm going to touch on the RISE Sustainability Internship Program. So, as an EPA employee, we work a lot with state and local governments, and one of our projects is the West Coast Collaborative, which is a public-private partnership program. We also work a lot with our headquarters office in DC, both the Air Quality Office and the Transportation Office and Department of Transportation. And I just want, from the federal perspective, before I get into the money opportunities, I just want to share that EPA is very involved with both renewable energy and clean transportation. And we regulate emissions of light-duty vehicles, trucks, motorcycles, heavy-duty and non-road engines, and we manage sulfur standards for vehicles. EPA's fuel economy regulations give instructions on how to test vehicles, measure, calculate, and report fuel efficiency information for the CAFE standards, and CAFE stands for Corporate Available Fuel Economy and Labeling. And we require vehicle manufacturers to comply with these gas mileage standards. I'd also like to talk about our President, Barack Obama. He's been instructing EPA and the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration to work together, and we've adopted a first ever greenhouse gas regulations for heavy duty engines and vehicles. So it's very exciting and groundbreaking. We're taking steps to coordinate to enable the production of new generation of clean vehicles through reduced greenhouse gas emissions and improved fuel use for on-road vehicles and engines, from the smallest cars to the lightest trucks.
The next person, Bob Hines, I see every single day because he works down the hall from me in the energy office. And Bob, this morning, will provide an update on electric vehicles.
You looked at my bio, you probably noticed that I'm on the permitting team for the renewable energy branch, which is part of the state energy office. The permitting team really focuses on deploying large-scale solar on the islands. If anyone ever tried to put a large solar farm or a wind turbine, you know the process is kind of challenging. Today I'm serving as a stand-in for Margaret Larson, who really is the transportation guru for the state energy office in the state of Hawaii. Margaret, unfortunately, is in the main line and couldn't be here. I was blessed to have some inside perspective on electrifying vehicles in Hawaii, which is what Margaret titled this presentation. I had the opportunity, and a really great time, project managing a $4 million federal DOE grant that was awarded to Hawaii. And this grant was deployed by Hawaii to provide a cash rebate program for the purchase of electric vehicles and installation of chargers, and also provided about $2 million for us to go out and install public charging systems throughout the state. I will go over that a little in the presentation, but that's what's given me kind of an appreciation and respect for what we're trying to accomplish here. Next slide, please work. Yes. Hey, I love this license plate. It is really cool license plate for electric vehicles with the rainbow across it. You need this license plate on that space-age car you're driving in order to really get the benefits that are offered to EV drivers. EVs are really one of the keys to transforming Hawaii's transportation sector to become less dependent on imported oil. As you may know, our objective in Hawaii is to achieve 70% clean energy sources by 2030. 40% will come from renewable energy side. Electric vehicles really play a part of that clean energy puzzle that we're trying to build. Now, from the State Energy Office perspective, our mission in the transportation sector, part of our mission is really to encourage the purchase of electric vehicles and to find ways to build out that infrastructure, which I'm going to briefly go over. Opportunities in Hawaii for electric vehicles. Well, to be honest with you, this slide lists those attributes and goes over those characteristics, which really make it an ideal place to operate and own an electric vehicle.
Our next speaker, I know we've seen on television a lot, Daniel Grabauskas. He is the Executive Director and Chief Executive Officer of the Honolulu Authority for Rapid Transportation.
Just a few weeks ago, we unveiled the look of the new train for the first time. So with some potential modifications to the color scheme, the overall design that you see here is pretty much what you're going to see in terms of the new rail car for HART. So we're pretty excited about unveiling that. So let's talk a little bit about today and a little bit about the future. Oahu is growing, and when you look at the corridor in which our train will operate, and you look ahead to 2030, nearly 70% of the residents of Oahu are going to live about 2 miles on either side of the rail project, and remarkably, more than 80% of the jobs in Oahu will be about 2 miles either side of where the rail corridor is going to be. And that's very remarkable, and I think it answers one of the questions that perhaps I get most frequently, which is Oahu big enough to actually support a rail system? And density is really the key. Because we have so many of our people, we all who live here between the mountains and the sea, that dense corridor of almost 1 million people really is what is the key trigger that will make this system work. And in a little while, I'll show you where our buses are operating, and you'll see, not coincidentally, that our current very successful transit system, the bus, is attempting to serve folks, but they're serving them on the same congested, crowded roadways that the vehicles are now on, the private, single occupancy vehicles, and together, they're not moving very quickly. So here is the schematic that shows where the system will actually operate. It's a 20-mile long system with 21 stations. And as I say, we all know, we live here, we know the topography. It will run in basically mimicking the corridor along Farrington, Kamehameha, and H1 from East Kapolei, just right near the West Oahu campus of UH, all the way into downtown to UH Manoa.
We also took a look at the exhibitors that were at the conference. They came from diverse corners of the green building and energy community.
The speakers and exhibitors at the conference made us think how many people are involved in supporting the green movement in Hawaii and how it can be a profitable business and a great idea.
All in all, we found this conference to be of high quality and entirely worthwhile. Our takeaway, however, was that more people ought to know about and attend conferences of this nature.
If you want to know more about DBED, check out dbed.hawaii.gov. If you want to know more about the conference, check out greenhawaiiconference.com. It's incumbent on all of us to keep current in this area.
And now let's take a look at our ThinkTech calendar events going forward.
Check out ThinkTech's 4 to 5 p.m. Drive Time radio series on KGU 760 AM for Energy on Wednesday, Asia in Review on Thursday, and ThinkTech Fridays on Friday. We also stream video and audio of all our shows live on the internet. Visit thinktechhawaii.com for our live stream and YouTube links. Raise your awareness on ThinkTech Hawaii.
On Thursday, June 27th, the Hawaii Venture Capital Association and ThinkTech will present a luncheon panel program at the Plaza Club entitled Healthcare in Hawaii. If you thought healthcare is expensive now, wait till you see what happens. The program will be moderated by Virginia Pressler of Hawaii Pacific Health. You can sign up for these programs on hvca.org.
And now here's Bill Spencer, president of the Hawaii Venture Capital Association, with this week's Spensation.
Well, you know, there's a recurrent theme. It started in the first Obama administration, and it's now coming back in the second Obama administration. It's the idea that some people in Congress, mostly Republicans, I think, don't want to give him any room. They don't want him to be president. They want to disempower him as president. And this has a huge effect on the government, the image of the government in the eyes of the people, and the image of the country in the eyes of other countries.
We've already seen for the first 10 months of his tenure, of his new term, an overt attempt by the Congress to just not give him anything. Even the head of the Senate Republicans said to their troops, we are not going to let this president have any wins.
And so it doesn't matter whether the initiative is a good initiative or not. It's any initiative. They're
That's
going
right.
to stop him on any initiative, meaning that if he has a good initiative that helps the country, they're going to stop him on that too.
Yeah, like the gun control issue, which wasn't really gun control, it was all about background checks. The Republicans in the House repealed Obamacare again last week. Now there are 3 scandals that keep getting beaten and beaten and beaten, and just to the point of absurdity. Things that are happening in the bowels of the government that are here. He's getting the heat for, as if he was telling low-level IRS agents in Ohio to go after the Tea Party. The Benghazi thing they just won't let go of. It just doesn't make sense. And it seems to be that Congress has just totally confused their mission in life, which is to, get our country managed properly, to work together with the administration, to accomplish important tasks like infrastructure, reconstruction, and things like that. But it's just not happening. We're just going to see 3 more years of nothing. And the thing that frustrates me even more is that, the people don't care. They're ambivalent. They're not voting. I mean, we had incredibly low turnout this last election, and we're coming up on another congressional reelection cycle. One of my heroes during the Watergate saga, Bob Woodward, actually came out and did a whole treatise on how the word crafting of the message after the Benghazi attacks was comparable to the same kind of word crafting Nixon did when he was editing the Watergate tapes. I mean, that's a ridiculous comparison. There is no basis for a comparison like that. Watergate was about abuse of power at the highest levels. Payments to people to do illegal things and stay quiet about it. And the president was involved up to his eyeballs. Here's a situation where the State Department and the CIA are just trying to, make a statement that doesn't overstate what happened when they really didn't know what happened. And now Woodward's claiming it to be, well, this is word crafting and it shouldn't happen. I mean, who doesn't word craft what they say in public?
But it's worse than that, because the press capitalizes on it sort of on a cumulative basis, and so it's a snowball. Each one seems to get more traction and get worse than the others, and ultimately I think the president loses his power as president. As I said before, in the eyes of the people, in the eyes of the government, in the eyes of governments elsewhere. We shoot our own self in the foot this way. the power of the office is diminished, but then in so doing, we diminish the power of the country.
Yeah, in the eyes of the world. It's a terrible problem.
Yeah. Some say this is a turning point for the country, that we are going down a slippery slope by losing touch with our own government, losing touch with the oath of office, losing touch with the constitutional arrangement by which the majority rules. If we elect a man the president, we have to give him the powers of the presidency, not try to unelect him every single day of his term. That's what's happening, Bill.
It sure seems that way.
Yeah. I hope this resolves, but it sounds like it's getting worse, not better.
Well, it's going to be helpful if in this upcoming election people don't, stick their heads in the sand, and that we have a turnout that can shift the balance in the Congress, so we have an alignment between Congress and the executive office and can get some things done.
Thank you, Bill.
Thank you.
Bringing happy news yet still again.
And here's Panos Pomodoro of the College of Engineering at UH Manoa with a ThinkTech traffic report.
Every year, the American Society of Civil Engineers updates their report card on the nation's health of the infrastructure. And then it collects, of course, in order to do that, it collects information from every state and they aggregated it. In another program, we talked about the overall picture about the nation, and the nation got a D+. However, they create summaries, not grades, for every state. And I have in front of me, of course, the situation for the state of Hawaii. So I'm going to read a few of their more important findings about Hawaii. These are, of course, bad news. In other words, if something is good and it doesn't need to be fixed, they don't talk about it. They talk about the systems that we need to invest and improve or fix. Okay. So here is some of the bad news or some of the backlog. 191 million is needed for drinking water investments. That's ASAP, not long term. 1.8 billion is needed for wastewater. That is strictly, I suspect, the secondary treatment plant that is mandated by the EPA out in one in Honolulu and one in Sand Island. We have 146 structurally deficient bridges. I'll give you a more specific statistic later on, but that's something that we need to work on. And I know that the state DOT is working on it. Maybe the speed needs to increase. This is news to them, but not news to us when they say that 49% of roads are in mediocre quality. And some of the better roads are on the outer islands because Oahu roads are really in very poor shape. And the condition of the roads alone costs motorists about $515 extra per year, I guess in repairs, higher fuel consumption, etc. Let's look into some more detailed of the highlights that they have presented in their data form for Hawaii. The state of Hawaii has a fairly insufficient annual budget for their dams. We have quite a few dams collecting water, and 75 of them are considered high hazard. In other words, the conditions around them are fairly precarious. There is a lot of leakage. Therefore, part or the whole of the dam may suffer a catastrophic or partial collapse. And that can be, of course, significant risk for the communities under the dam. So we got to be very careful about that, and it should be a priority. Unfortunately, when it comes to infrastructure, some of the decision making is waiting for some sort of a catastrophe to happen, and then they act. Because clearly, the repair of the dams is not a priority. I don't think the last couple of years our current governor has even used the word dam once to describe a dam collecting water. Transportation. They say there are 15 public use airports in Hawaii, but they don't give a report for them. In other words, we have quite a few to deal with. 13% of our bridges are considered structurally deficient. 146 of 1,131 bridges. So we have quite a few streams, quite a few bridges, some of them small. And obviously, based on this report, a little over 10% are structurally deficient. It doesn't make them immediately dangerous, but they need to be addressed because traffic is getting heavier and heavier. Heavier, I mean more volume and heavier vehicles because trucks and buses are getting quite bigger and heavier. So they're putting an extra toll on the bridges. 359 or 32% of these same bridges are considered functionally obsolete. So in other words, they would no way pass current bridge making code. So they need to be updated quickly, and of course the amount of traffic on them is far too much for the design specifications they had when they were built 30 to 60 years ago.
We'll be right back to wrap up this week's edition of ThinkTech, but first we want to thank our underwriters.
Hawaiian Electric Company and its affiliates Miko on Maui and Helco on Hawaii Island are deeply committed to the communities they serve.
Galen Ho is a senior executive of BAE Systems, a global defense, security, and aerospace company, and CEO of CBI Polymers, a tech company in Hawaii.
The High Tech Development Corporation, the state's leading technology agency, attached to the Department of Business, Economic Development, and Tourism.
Castle and Cook, Hawaii, with a time-honored legacy that spans more than 160 years and revolves around its mission of investing in Hawaii, creating communities, and providing for the needs of our state.
Hawaii Gas, formerly the Gas Company, a proponent of the Liquefied Natural Gas Initiative, helping Hawaii achieve its transition to clean energy and a better energy future.
Collateral Analytics, a Hawaii-based tech company empowering the real estate industry with greater and faster access to the tools and data they need to make better informed property investment decisions.
Okay, Maria, that wraps up this week's edition of ThinkTech. Remember, you can watch ThinkTech on OC16 several times every week. Can't get enough of it, just like Jay Fidel does. For additional times, check out oc16.tv.
Totally, Duke. For lots more ThinkTech videos and for underwriting and sponsorship opportunities on ThinkTech on OC16, visit thinktechhawaii.com. Be a sponsor or volunteer and help us reach Hawaii.
I'm Duke Oishi. Thanks so much for joining us on ThinkTech. You can watch this show throughout the week and tune in next Sunday evening for our next important weekly episode. Aloha, everyone.
I'm Maria Kashem. See you next time.
My name is DJ, and ThinkTech is fabulous.